This is dad life. It's how we live 24/7, 365. Check me. Gas station glasses, don't care what the masses think about me with my sweet goatee. I'm rocking my Dockers with a cuff and a crease. I got that St. John's Bay and a clip for my piece. I look nice, I got dozens of dollars and that's right. It goes straight to my daughters and my wife. I'm a miracle dad, making magic with the checkbook is a talent I have.
I roll hard in the yard with a 60-inch cut. Zero turn radius, my neighbors say, what? They be driving by, peeping my landscape. Yo, these greens got nothing on my manscape.
Hydrangeas, begonias, crepe myrtles,
Ornamental turtle.
hold up, is that a weed in my fescue?
Aw, nah.
Round up to the rescue.
It's the dad life, it's the dad life. Take my daughter to the party, it's the dad life. It's the dad life, it's the dad life. Shooting vids of the kids, it's the dad life. Roll up to the splash pad, 10 a.m. My whole entourage hops out the minivan. We splishy splashy for an hour or two, then it's back to the house, prepping for the barbecue.
Brats, dogs, racker ribs, whatever. Get me on the Weaver, man, nobody does it better. Call me Lord of the Grill, I'm king of the coals. Nana's secret recipe, you know how I roll.
1080p, 16 by 9. I'm rocking man cave status with a screen like mine. Keep your peanut butter hands off my 50-inch Vizio. Pop up the corn, roll the Disney video.
Don't you dare close your eyes.
We got Aladdin, Jasmine, Abu, the genie. With kids like mine, everybody wants to be me.
Sing a night song and then it's off to bed. This is the dad life, no more to be said. It's the dad life, it's the dad life. Hit the mall, coaching ball, it's the dad life. It's the dad life, it's the dad life. Playing rough, fixing stuff, it's the dad life. It's the dad life, it's the dad life. Yeah, you know how we do it, it's the dad life.
Well, happy Father's Day. We watched that. We found that. Chrissy found that video the other night, and I said, "You gotta let me show that at church. That is the awesomest thing." And I think we watched it like 15 times, and it gets funnier every single time that we watch it. So, again, happy Father's Day, and it's just a little glimpse of a lot of things that we do as dads. But today, we've been on this journey with Joseph from pit to purpose, so we're going to continue that today. We began our journey with Joseph as a 17-year-old young man who was the most loved son of his father. And you know, he had the coat of many colors that his dad made him, and he was the most loved son. And his brothers, because of this, were very jealous of him. And they became enraged with him when he started having these dreams and telling them about these dreams that he was having, where basically he was saying, "You guys are going to bow down to me one day." So they got together and they decided that we're gonna get rid of him. All right, let's kill this guy. Let's get rid of him. And then they decide instead to throw him into the pit. And we see him go into the pit, and we see that he's sold into slavery. And what we have seen as we've gone throughout this journey is how the hand of God has been on Joseph every step of the way. And Fawn talked about this last week, some of those peaks and valleys that he's gone through. But we see that from the get-go, he's sold to this guy Potiphar, who is a high-ranking official under Pharaoh, who's the king of all of Egypt. And we see that Potiphar puts him in charge of many things within inside of his household. And he basically puts him in charge. And Potiphar is blessed during this time because of it, until ultimately he's thrown into prison because Potiphar's wife accuses him of trying to sleep with her. Even though he wasn't trying to sleep with her, she was trying to sleep with him, he's thrown into prison. And we continue to see the hand of God on him in prison. as he's put in charge of many things in prison. And then while he's in prison, he encounters these two dudes who are having these dreams, and he's able to interpret these dreams because of God allowing him to interpret these dreams, which is ultimately going to get him out of prison. We see that Pharaoh is having these dreams. Again, the king of all of Egypt, he's having these dreams that are very disturbing to him. He doesn't understand them. He doesn't understand what's going on, and he tries to bring in a bunch of people to interpret the dreams for him, and then he finds out that there's this guy, Joseph, who's in prison, who can interpret the dreams. So he brings them to him, and Joseph lets him know what's going to happen. He says, we got 7 years of good coming, and then we have 7 years of extreme famine. Extreme famine. So Pharaoh puts him in charge of everything, the whole land. And he says, all right, I want you to gather up all of this food during the good time that we have, so that we'll have it when the famine comes. And at this point in Joseph's life, he's about 30. So he's been 13 years on this journey. And we're going to pick up this story today in Genesis 42. We're not going to read the whole thing. So if you have time to go back, it's great reading. But I'm going to kind of summarize it and then hit on some major points. But what we see is that the famine it's not just in Egypt. The famine is all across the land. And his brothers and his father, Jacob, are back in the land of Canaan. And they're experiencing the famine. And Jacob becomes aware that there is food in Egypt. So he sends his sons, all of his sons except for his youngest son, Benjamin, to go to Egypt and to get food, to buy food so that they can have food back with them. So it's interesting, this is going to be the first time that his brothers have come into contact with him since they sold him into slavery. And so they go on the journey, and they get there, and they come in front of him, and they don't recognize Joseph, but Joseph immediately recognizes them. And what we see here is they're bowing down before him, so it's his dream realized. It's his prophetic dream realized, which is kind of ironic anyway when you think about it. The very thing that got his brothers so upset and got him to be sold into slavery is the thing that got him out of prison, by being able to interpret these dreams. So they see him and they bow down before him. They don't know him, but he recognizes them again. So immediately Joseph tells them, you guys are spies. You guys came here to scout out this land, and you came to steal the stuff. And they plead with him, no sir, we're honest men. We're honest men, and we're the sons of one man, and our youngest brother is back at home, and we're just here to buy food. So Joseph comes up with a plan for them to show that they're honest. He says, you need to bring back your youngest brother, leave one of your brothers with me, and go back and get your youngest brother and come back before me. So they realize that at this point they're kind of becoming aware of the things that they had done to Joseph. Even though they don't know this is Joseph, they become aware of the things that they've done, and they're kind of feeling guilty about it. And they think that they're being punished. So anyway, Joseph loads up their packs, gives them the food, puts all their money back in their packs, and gives them extra money for their journey. And they get back to their dad, and that's where we're going to pick up the story. So they go back to Jacob, and they tell him all these things that have happened. And they explain everything to him, and we're going to pick up the story in Genesis 42, verse 35, if you have your Bibles with you. If you don't have a Bible, we have them in the back, on the back table. And if you don't have one at home, please take it. It's our gift to you. So again, we're going to be in Genesis 42, verse 35. As they were emptying their sacks, there in each man's sack was his pouch of silver. When they and their father saw the money pouches, they were frightened. Their father Jacob said to them, "You have deprived me of my children. Joseph is no more, and Simeon is no more. And now you want to take Benjamin? Everything is against me." Then Reuben said to his father, "You may put both of my sons to death if I do not bring him back to you. Entrust him to my care, and I will bring him back." But Jacob said, "My son will not go down with you. His brother is dead, and he is the only one left. If harm comes to him on the journey you are taking, you will bring my gray head down to the grave in sorrow." So, the first thing that I see here is that I look at this response and I'm like, whoa, what about all these other children? And I was thinking about this morning. I was thinking, what if one of my kids was outside, like crossing the street or something, running across the street, playing a game, whatever, and they came inside and said, "Hey, can we bring Jace with us to go out into the street?" And I said, "No. You can't take Jace out into the street. It's okay if you do, but not Jace. Leave him here." So not going to win any Dad of the Year awards with the response that he gave. But we do see something here is that his response is completely filled with fear. If you really look at and examine the response that he gave, we see that it's full of fear. He doesn't mention anything about his sons returning safe. He doesn't mention anything about, hey, we have food now. We're not going to die. We're going to live. And that brings us to our first point, if you're following along, is that fear always produces the wrong response. And we've seen this out of Jacob. If you want to go back and trace the history of Jacob, you'll see that he lived his life in this way. And this is a guy that's been walking with God for a long time. Over 100 years. And he has lived his life in this way. And what we see out of him is that Jacob is continually expecting the worst. He doesn't look at the good things that are going on. He's continually expecting the worst things to happen. You guys ever hear of Murphy's Law? This guy, Edward A. Murphy, he was an aerospace engineer who worked on safety critical systems, and he's most known for Murphy's Law, which states that everything that can go wrong will go wrong. All right, and we just have a short video here. I have a short video to show you that kind of demonstrates Murphy's Law in kind of a funny way.
Morning, everybody. Let's get started. Kenny?
At 7, I'm going to throw your newspaper into the bushes.
Can you make it 7:30 when the sprinklers come on?
Done.
Ned?
At 10:45, I'll let you know that a computer virus totally wiped out your hard drive.
Terrific. Janine?
On your way to the client presentation, you're going to blow a tire and have to walk across town to get there.
Will it be raining?
Hard.
Great. Becky, anything to add? You're still going to be giving me the silent treatment for no apparent reason. Awesome. Good thing I had my orange juice.
Take on the day with the natural goodness of 100% pure Florida orange.
Wouldn't it be great if we had a briefing every morning of all the things that were going to go wrong? Hey, listen, on the way to work, you're going to get caught in traffic, and you're going to end up late. You're not going to make it on time. You're going to get reamed by your boss. But we don't have that. We don't have a briefing every morning. But that was just kind of a funny way to look at it. And we see this out of Jacob. We see that he's constantly expecting the worst things to happen. But, before we start to pass judgment on Jacob, let's look at our own lives. I mean, how do we respond when we face these kinds of things? Do we look at the things that we face and think, I'm just going to keep expecting the worst thing to happen? And I know that I myself, I'm very guilty of this. It is a flaw that I have a tendency to expect the worst in a lot of situations, and I can become completely paralyzed by fear. So just a couple of things that I just wanted to share a couple of stories with you of things that have happened in my life where I've continued to fear. I know I've shared this before, but before we moved here, I was laid off of my job. We didn't know that we were coming here. We had no idea that we were coming to Naples. I just knew that I didn't have a job anymore. And at the beginning of that process, it hurt. But soon after, I started to think, okay, all right, I'll get a job. I'm not worried about it. And then I started to go on interviews. And I didn't get one. And then I didn't get another one. And then I didn't get another one. And then by the time you go on 4 or 5 of these and you don't get a job, like, what the heck is going on? I'm not good enough. And I started to become very fearful. How am I going to take care of my family? What am I supposed to do? So I lived in that fear. And it's real easy to do that. And fear can be brought on by guilt from things that we do, or it can be brought on by our circumstances, things that have happened to us. And the way that we respond to it is very important. One other quick story. About a year ago, I think it's been about a year. It'll be a year on July 14th, my nephew's birthday. Jace and I were in a serious accident. We were driving down Immokalee Road, and my tires slid out from underneath, and I ended up going off the road and flipping twice. And when we got to, it was traumatic. It was really traumatic. But when we came to and stopped, the most awesome thing was that neither one of us had a scratch on us. But still, to this day, when I get in the car and it's raining outside, I can convince myself that I'm going to get in an accident because of that fear and not remembering what God did to rescue us from that. Okay, we're gonna pick up the story in Genesis 43, verse 1. And some time has passed here. Okay, they got the food back, and Jacob has already said, you know, you can't take Benjamin with you. So we'll pick it up here in chapter 43. Now the famine was still severe in the land. So when they had eaten all the grain they had bought from Egypt, their father said to them, "Go back and buy us a little more food." But Judah said to him, "The man warned us solemnly, 'You will not see my face again unless your brother is with you. If you will send our brother along with us, we will go down and buy food for you. But if you will not send him, we will not go down, because the man said to us, 'You will not see my face unless your brother is with you.'" Israel asked, that's Jacob, "Why did you bring this trouble on me by telling the man you had another brother?" They replied, "The man questioned us closely about ourselves and our family. 'Is your father still living?' he asked us. 'Do you have another brother?' We simply answered his questions. How were we to know? He would say, 'Bring your brother down here.'" So, what we see out of Jacob here, his first response is, "Why didn't you lie for me? Why did you tell these people the truth? Why did you tell them the truth?" And he's not at any point in the story so far has he said, "Let's take this to God. Let's go to God with this." He can't even see the big picture because he's so riddled with fear. Not even 1 minute to say, "Hey, what's God up to here? What's going on? Why is this happening?" And this is our second point, is that fear blurs our vision. Fear blurs our vision. We can often miss what God wants to do in our lives because we're overcome by fear. I was thinking about this. How many times have I missed out on an opportunity because I was scared? Or how many times have I missed out on an opportunity? Even just when we look at fear, and the thing when I was thinking about fear, I was thinking about this yesterday, and fear is so inwardly focused. It's so focused on us. It's all about us. It's all about our control. It's all about what we can do to control the situation and manipulate the situation. And I started to think about that, is how many times have I missed out on an opportunity to share God's love with someone because I was scared of what they would think? Because I was thinking, and I was already thinking about what their response would be. or what they would say about it. How many times have we missed out on those opportunities? Because fear is all about us. Now it comes from the enemy. The enemy's great at piling on that guilt. The enemy's great at letting us look at our circumstances and saying, you're not good enough, you're not good enough. And he's really good, he's really deceptive, but he's really good at it. But we don't have to stay there. Let's continue in chapter 43, verse 8. Then Judah said to Israel his father, send the boy along with me, and we will go at once, so that we and you and our children may live and not die. I myself will guarantee his safety. You can hold me personally responsible for him. If I do not bring him back to you and set him here before you, I will bear the blame before you all my life. As it is, if we had not delayed, we could have gone and returned twice. Then their father Israel said to them, if it must be, then do this. Put some of the best products of the land in your bags, and take them down to the man as a gift. A little balm and a little honey, some spices and myrrh, some pistachio nuts and almonds. Take double the amount of silver with you, for you must return the silver that was put back into the mouths of your sack. Perhaps it was a mistake. Take your brother also and go back to the men at once. And may God Almighty grant you mercy before the men, so that he will let your other brother and Benjamin come back with you. As for me, if I am bereaved, I am bereaved. So reluctantly, Jacob says, okay, all right, reluctantly. Like, okay, take him with you. And for the first time he mentions God for the first time. But if we look at his response, we're going to see that it's still filled with fear. He wants to send all these bribes. Hey, let's bribe this guy so he doesn't hurt us. And we've seen this out of him before. The first time that he encountered his brother Esau, who he had stole the blessing from, he sends all these gifts to him ahead of him. Not because he wants to bless his brother, because he's scared that his brother's going to kill him. So we see this fear. And an interesting point here is that as reluctant as Jacob was to do all this, God gets his way. Even when we are ruled by fear, even when we let fear overtake us, God's purpose will prevail. Over and over and over. There is nothing that you can do about it. And that, I go back to the story of losing my job, and I think about that time period that I had to go through where I was so fearful, and I really wasn't approaching it the right way. And then all of a sudden, God says, you guys are going to Naples. And then a week later, I have a job at Palmetto Ridge High School, and we're here at the Naples Vineyard. And so God's purpose prevailed through all of that fear that I had about taking care of my family. And we're in a good spot. We're in a better spot now. We're where God wanted us to be, despite how fearful we were about it. Billy Graham had this quote. I came across this quote. It says, anxiety is the natural result when our hopes are centered on anything short of God and His will for us. Again, anxiety is the natural result when our hopes are centered on anything short of God and His will for us. When we choose to follow other things, when we choose to be inwardly focused, when we can't let go of control, we're going to be filled with anxiety. There's no escaping it. There's no escaping it. So what do? We have to, and this brings us to our third point, which is the final point, is where we have to choose to trust God. If we choose to trust God, He will remove our fear. It's a choice. I look back and over my history with God and my journals, and and go through it over and over and over and over again, God says, trust me. Trust me. It doesn't mean that we're not going to face any kind of obstacles along the way. It doesn't mean that we're not going to have trials. But when we trust Him, that is an outwardly focused response. It's the opposite of fear, which is so inward. It forces us to give up our control. And that in itself can be a scary thing for a lot of people. That in itself is very scary, to give up control. But it's what He wants from us. It's what He wants from us. You know, in 2 Timothy 1:7, we read that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of love and of power and of a sound mind. And that's what He wants. We're still going to face obstacles, but we don't have to be fearful of them, because no matter what your earthly father looked like, we have the perfect Father. We have the perfect Father who did everything for us by sending His Son to die on a cross so that we can stand here boldly in confidence that He has done it for us. And we know the outcome. We know the outcome. He told us, it's like that morning briefing. We know the outcome. We know that He has already conquered the enemy, and that ultimately He's going to come back and take us home. And let's pray. Father, thank you. Thank you, Father. Thank you for choosing us. Thank you for drawing us in, Lord. Thank you that we don't have to fear the enemy. Thank you that we don't have to fear. We don't have to become paralyzed by our fear. Thank you that you have done everything for us. That you've given us an opportunity to choose to trust you. Lord, we just thank you that when we walk with you, that we can be confident that you're in control. And Lord, if there's anyone here who hasn't ever made that choice to stand with you, to walk with you and make you the Lord of their life, Lord, I just pray that you would give them courage today, that today would be their day to cross the line of faith and say, I say yes to you as my Lord. And if you feel that, if you feel that beating in your chest, if you feel like that's you, would you just pray with me? Father, I don't have all the answers. I know that I have fear. I'm scared of all these things that have happened. But Lord, I know that I need you. I know that you can come and that you can conquer these fears. That you can give me a better life. Lord, come and rescue me.